Welcome back, everyone. We are working with the Tesla again, and this is the final video when it comes to suspension. So in this one, it is the last thing. So as you guys know, I just finished up with the toe and the camber arms in the back. So now the rear wheels can be adjusted completely and fully, and it's also lighter, so there's that. Now what I'm gonna do is I am going to lower the Tesla. That means it's gonna look so much better. Like, stock ride height is crazy. I'll show you some before and afters outside. But right now it's really, really high. I don't wanna go crazy low with this, scraping everything underneath the car, but I wanted to lower it just a little bit. It looks better, it's more efficient, faster, you know, the best of the best kind of thing. So I've got my Unplugged Performance Lowering. Now these are the moderate ones. So you've got a mild, moderate, and extreme, I guess. So you've got a little bit of lowering, a medium amount, and really low. As low as you can possibly get and drive and hopefully not hit anything. So I've got those ones ready to go. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the stuff off the front. That's why I have the frunk popped. I'm gonna take all the paneling and stuff off, because one of the things you need to do, either one, you need to buy the proper tool. It's gonna be a 13 millimeter. You're either gonna buy a 13 millimeter, I believe they are low profile or thin, because there's 3 spots that you need to get into to pop the strut off. There is an alternative, so this isn't necessary. I'll show you guys when we get in there, but you can take a few more things out. It takes a little bit longer, but I think it'd be cool to have a specialty tool since I don't really have one. So I got one of these off Amazon. You can pick them up at your hardware store, Tecton, and I'm just going to grind it down until it gets just enough to be able to fit in there to get those shocks and springs, that whole assembly out. So remember that. Either buy one or make one yourself. All right, so up here in the frunk area, we've got that raised up. The first thing we're gonna do is remove this top one. I've done this before in other videos. Very, very simple. Just clips, pry it up. And there we go. That is the first part. And once that's out, we've got some 10 mils to take out. So you got a 10 millimeter here, 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 and then we're gonna pop off this plastic cover, unplug the light here and here. Once all of those are out, then you'll be able to pop a few clips. There we go, up top. There we go. Oh, I almost forgot. These do come out, so these will be able to slide out. I almost forgot, there's one more 10 mil right here. Once that last one is out, everything is just clips. We pop it out, we put it off to the side. Now this is what we're talking about. We've got these 3, and they're 13 millimeters, of course, on both sides. We need to get to those, but unless you've got a low profile, a regular is just not gonna fit up in here. So we've got to grind it down enough. I don't know how deep that is, but a decent amount in there to get it in and pop them off. But the alternative is to take off the whole housing. So that's taking off these bolts. I think there's another one in here, but it drops the whole assembly down instead of just your strut assembly or spring strut, whatever you want to call it. This is what we're after. So I'm gonna do a little bit of grinding. Oh, and then I'll do this. All right, so we got a bit of grinding down on my grinding wheel. Enough, just enough for it to fit down in here and spin and get a hold of that. That's a little bit of an angle, there it goes. So enough to get on that. Perfect, I'll be able to break it loose. Don't wanna lose that. But that is what I'm gonna be doing here, because in my opinion, this is the easier way to do it. I know my question and a lot of other people's question when doing this is, now that you're taking the wall off there, isn't it going to break? Yes, it is going to make it much more brittle doing this, but these ones up here, which is what this is specifically for, these are not high torque. So this shouldn't be an issue Because remember, the car is, its weight is pushing down on that, which is pushing up. So really these are to keep it from when you're bouncing the other way. Anyway, not a whole lot of torque on these, so shouldn't have this broken. It's nice and warm though from grinding. All right, so we can see how much of a gap there is on the fronts and the rear. There's a whole lot in here and even more on the rear. So let's start with the front since I already have everything torn apart. So I'm gonna pop my jack in under here and we're gonna get you lifted up. All right, so I got my little puck up there. And of course, all the stuff that I have in all my videos, you can find in the description below. Let's raise the car. Now we don't need to go terribly high. We just need to make sure we get the front wheel off the ground. There we go, we got it off the ground. Now with the wheel off, we get to see all of the gloriousness up in here. First thing we're gonna do, this guy's gonna get in the way quite a bit. So what we're gonna do is we're going to pull these out. So we're gonna give them a little tuggy tug. They're the little Christmas tree thing. So just have to get a good grip and pull them out and try not to take your thumb off. These bottom ones come out very easy. You might not need to take this one out because I may have ruined it, but yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna leave that out of the way. Not a big deal. It's just a little piece of plastic. But now we actually get to start taking stuff off. And first things first, this brake line, we're gonna follow it in. You can see there is a 10 mil bolt here. We're gonna get a 10 millimeter on there. And next up, we're going to be taking off this nut right here. It's 18 millimeters, so for whatever reason, I don't have an 18 millimeter socket, so I've got one of these guys. Let's take it off. Next up, we're gonna get a 21 millimeter, and we're gonna come around here on this side, and also another 21 on this side down here, and we're going to remove the bolt that passes through here. And once I got the nut off of this one, now I just need to go ahead and tap this through so we can remove it on this side. And once you get the bolt out of here, this thing is gonna come forward, so it's tensioned quite a bit, but I mean, it's enough for me to move around manually with my hand, so it's not gonna kill you or anything. But that is trying to push this way. So if you are taking it out, push this more back like that, and you'll be able to release the tension off of there. And next up, we are going to be taking out the bolt and nut that go through here. So this is a 15 millimeter, and this is a T50. All right, now that I've got that off, I'm just gonna squeeze this together and then pull this out at the same time, because that'll loosen it up a little bit if you squeeze these together. And once you do, this thing is going to pop itself out, and we're gonna be loosey-goosey up in here, so let's just hold that as it is. All right, up top, we're gonna use our new tool that just was made, or maybe you bought a low profile, or maybe you wanna take the whole assembly off. It's completely up to you. But I mean, this, you can tell some of these aren't perfectly aligned. They're a little bit off center. This one's a little bit to the right, but bam, that's on there. Maybe start with this one over here. I don't know. All right, we're on our last and final. I slowly took that one out. We'll magnetize that guy. And that is all three up top. And we're gonna jump down here, and this is actually gonna be nice and loose now. It's nice and free. And now that that is nice and free, the final thing we need to take out that's been kind of holding everything together is right here. You can see how it's kind of facing down. So we need to put some pressure up here to get this tie rod to kind of come up so we can push it out. So if you have a crowbar or maybe like a wrench or something, you can put a little bit of pressure up here to get this guy moved up. So if you just place something in between here and kind of torque down a little bit, that'll give you just enough wiggle room to push it out. Now that that's out, everything's totally free. You can see some daylight up here. It's just wiggling around. Grab this, push it down. It does go down quite far, but you can push it down. And yeah, let's just take this whole thing out. And to take this out, we're gonna move it all the way to the back at the bottom. and we're gonna come through the top. So the top hat, right there, you can't see it. We're gonna push down on the whole assembly, and we're gonna push up on this, and it should fall forward and come out. All right, just cleared the top, came forward, and now we just take this guy straight out. Make sure we don't get those wires. Oh, and there we go. There's our whole assembly right there. Isn't it just beautiful? Now that we have the assembly out, we can grab our spring compressors. So I just went to my local auto part place and got the loaner. So there's two different ones. There is a coil spring compressor, and then this one, which is a strut spring compressor. We want this one because it attaches to the outside. The other one attaches in the inside and then closes it. Obviously, we can't do it here. That's why this is a strut, because there's a strut on the inside. The other one, I think, works when we do the rears, but get these instead. It does both. All right, now we got them on. I've got it facing away from anything important. I guess the house. Anyway, I've got it on opposite sides. I've got them nice and snugged on there, and I'm gonna start tightening them one at a time, and they're just enough to start to get that tension. So when I take this off, pop, up at the top, and I take that nut out, it won't fly out with the deadly force of Springmageddon. All right, so I finally got this one out. Not sure why, but it took a really long time to actually get out. But that has finally popped out. These are still in the way. So this is already marked. I didn't say it, but this is marked where the little top hat is up here and the very top of the assembly. You want to keep that just where it has its grooved indentations. You want to put the new spring right where that is. Top one has that. Bottom one, I don't think needs it because it does have this. You can't really put it in a different position, but definitely this one up here, this is already pre-marked, but if yours isn't pre-marked, make sure you do have a mark there. And now that this thing's out, we can slide it apart. All right, so all this is gonna slide forward. And I just keep that all together-ish. But all that is there. So a little interesting thing that I found is this spins. So if you grab this, it'll spin. That's why I was having trouble trying to take this out, because I was trying to spin this and this was spinning. So I guess that's why on the inside it is keyed to have, I guess, like some sort of Allen, but I'm not sure how you're supposed to do that when it's inside there. I don't know. Okay, figured it out. So no one else in all the videos that I have found talks about this. They just use an impact and then it comes out. But because the top of this has that, it's a T30, which is what I have here. So you use this extension, but you need to have a pass-through. So that's what I have here, is a pass-through. I'll link it. I got this at Harbor Freight. It's a Pittsburgh. So that will go on there, and then this will go through it like so. So you can lock it in, hold it with one hand, and the other hand turn it. It's, I mean, that's one way of doing it, I guess. All right, so here is the Unplugged Performance Moderate Spring. So these are gonna drop the car 1.5 inches, and here are the originals. Now, it's a little confusing when you open up the box, you get 4 springs, which ones are which. These ones are a skinnier one. Trust me, the rear ones will not fit up here. So these are a little bit skinnier. Let me show you the rear ones. And you can see these are the rear ones. So they're much, much wider. So yeah, don't get those confused. Okay, so I have everything seated. Now, pay attention to how this is set up. So you've got the curved arm here, straight arm here. And if you look up, the bottom part, like we said, nothing, there we go, nothing changes. This stays right in place. You're gonna butt it up right against there. The spring's gonna go there. Then you're gonna come up, and then up at the top where we had our alignment points. But you can see over here, there's no groove, but where the old spring was, let's try to find it. Come around, come around, come around. We can see underneath here, if I kind of scoot it up, there's an indent. You want to sit it right there at the indent where it was. Now, orientation-wise, if you ever get lost, if you take a look up at the top, you see how these ones are really close together, and this one's kind of further out, and it makes a triangle. So close, and then it comes to this furthest one. Now, when you're looking at the car like this, it's the front of the car and the rear. This one that's further away is going to be pointing towards the front of the car, just like I have it here. So you've got the curved on the right, there's the long point, and then the straight arm. I don't have anything tightened up yet, but I've got it seated where it needs to go to give you guys an idea, because when you put it in, that's how it's gonna go in. So this part here is the furthest away from these two making the triangle. So this is how we want it to go back in. Now I have everything where it should be. Now I can get my spring compressors back in. We'll compress this spring, put that nut back on, make sure it's nice and tight, 34 foot-pounds at the top, and our assembly is back together. All right, I've got the spring compressed. Now I just need to put, well, I gotta remember to put everything back in, but I have enough room to actually get the nuts started on there. So that's perfect. Might compress it just a little bit more to make sure I can get it fully seated. But yeah, we're almost there. All right, got the top nut on there with my barrage of tools. So that to tighten it up, and then this, as you've seen, to get inside that one. And then I've got a wrench on the end of that, just so you don't have to grip it so hard and rip your hands up. But I got it on, I got it torqued down, we're good to go. Now we just slowly loosen these up, make sure everything's still seated where it needs to be seated. So that's right there in the groove. That's still seated in the groove. Now this other side, this isn't seated here just because it's compressed where I put it. I know it's not very pretty, but use what you got. And there we go. There she is, really dirty because she's been rolling around on the ground. But everything is together, everything is where it should be, everything is just beautiful and blue. So now we get to do all the reverse and put everything back together and then do it to the other side. And then we can move on to the back. And once you get everything back in place, and at least the nut on as far as you can, this is the only one that I can't hand tighten. But once you get everything back in place and everything is resting on what it should be, now we need to start and torquing things down. So we're gonna start up here with this one, and this is going to be torqued down to 41 foot-pounds. And then the brake line bracket screw, that one's 3.7. And then right here for 78 foot-pounds and 72 foot-pounds for this way bar. All right, everything is back in place. Everything's tightened up down here. So I'm gonna pop the tire on, lower it down, and then finish up top. We got it dropped down, sitting on its weight. Now we come up here and let's torque these down to 26 foot-pounds. All right, so the fronts are done. We are moving on to the rear. Just took the tire off, got it jacked up and whatnot. Now this one is far easier than the fronts because it is separate. So you have your shock and then you have your spring separately. So all we have to do is first take off this cover, those two bolts that go through, and then it'll be free, and that's it. It's so much easier back here. So this cover, you just look under, and you can see there's a 10 mil right there. We're gonna take that off, and then this is gonna come down and slide out. All right, so I just took that 10 mil out, and this thing's just gonna fall forward. You see it comes out like that. It's just got these little kind of hooks that go over this bolt here, but that should fall out fairly easy. Now all we have to do is take both of these big boys out. But before we do that, we have to make sure we put pressure on here, because if we try to take these out, the spring is pushing down on it, so it's gonna fly down. We don't want that. So for that, I got my other jack, and now I'm gonna jack it up probably somewhere around here. I'm gonna see if I can use a piece of wood to flatten it out to make it a little bit better. I mean, use what you have, depending on what you do have. Jacking it up here wouldn't work, because you can take, if you jack it up here, you can take this bolt out, but you won't be able to take that one out. You might be able to switch sides and do it that way, but the easiest way is to lift it up here if possible, just so you can get that tension off. All right, so I got it jacked up and I got the first one out. The first one that comes out is the easiest just because the other one is holding any sort of tension that's in there. So that one comes out easy. This one, unless you have it jacked up just perfectly in the perfect angle, this one's gonna be a pain in the butt. All right, so once you break the nut free and take it off, the best way that I can figure out is you just look at the hole. You can see that it's touching the top, which means I need to put more pressure up. So if I put a little bit of pressure up on the jack and just keep going until you get it loose enough to where you can move it with your hand, perfect. Now we'll be able to take it out if it doesn't get caught on the threads. And there you go. Now that it's out, we can loosen up the jack, lowers this down in not a crazy manner, and we'll be able to get to the spring. It should be able to fall right out and just your life is easy. All right, we're lowering this down, nice and slow. We don't want no one to get hurt here. There we go. All right, so I got everything out of the way and we're just gonna push it down and kind of crack it loose because it is, you know, tensioned on there the whole time ever since it was made. So if you push it around, you'll be able to hear it crack loose and pop and whatnot. So let's do that, get it nice and loose, and then I'll just put some pressure down on this to be able to get the spring to pop out. All right, so I've got my foot down here on the arm, and I'm pushing down with my foot, grabbing it at the bottom, and kind of kicking that a little bit, and see how it's falling up top. And now it's melted down, and we have a spring. All right, so here is our rear spring. We are going to reuse the top and the bottom. So keep these, don't tear them up, don't rip them. If you ever get confused which one's top and which one's bottom, bottom one is pretty easy. It's got those two little bungs. I don't really know what to call them. Anyway, that's your bottom because they stick through the two holes. You can actually see them from here. So to make sure everything's aligned up. But when you put it back in, it's going to look like this, where the start of the spring, right there, and the end of the spring, or the start or the end, whatever, are gonna be facing towards the outside of the car. So like that, this is exactly how it went in. And then you just line up the bottoms, the top. If you really wanna look at how everything is, and you can get a light and come in here and you can see it's actually grooved inside here too. So the old one's out, time for the new one. This is Unplugged Performance again, and we have the dual rate. So that means all these close coils together on the bottom are going to go on the bottom. So let's transfer these ones onto the bottom, that one onto the top, smack it back in, and then do the other side. I mean, it's all simple. The rear one's so much easier. Shabam, it is all in place. Same thing, you line up your indent up there to the indent there, the little stopping point on there, both of them, the starts and the ends, are facing towards me. So now it's time to finagle this back in the same way that I got it out. So I'm going to, lean it in, pop it in, throw it forward, yell, scream, curse, and it'll be perfect. It'll be fun. Yay. All right, so you can see I've got this one poking through. This one right down here I have in the right location. It just needs to be pressed up before it gets poked through. And then if you look up at the top, everything is seated correctly. Obviously this is a shorter spring because it's a lowering spring, so it's not gonna poke out as much just in this relaxed position. So now that I have everything where it needs to be, I can put pressure on this again, move it up, and get everything aligned, throw my bolts through here, and get them tightened up. All right, so I've got it jacked up just enough for this one. We'll just move it over. You can see that's gonna fit perfectly, but this other one is not going to fit perfectly. We're gonna have to do some movement because it naturally wants to move up like this. So once we get the bolt through here, now we just need to push down on the arm, maybe the caliper. You're gonna push down, see how it comes down. That's all it is. Just a little bit of finagling. There we are. Everything is snugged up and put back into place. Jack is moved out of the way so I can actually get in here. Now we're going to tighten both of these up to spec. These are 85 foot-pounds a piece. Once we get those tightened up to spec, we'll go ahead and put that guy back on with the 10 mil and do the other side. All right, everything is finally done. A little piece of advice though, when you finally drop your car, you might have to do something because it's obviously lower now in the front and the rear, and it still has to settle with the spring, so it's going to get even lower. You may have to have some sort of wood or something on the tires or have something else set up, because even with my low profile jack and the puck under there, when I lowered it completely down, it needed like another maybe quarter-inch because it was really stuck in there. I was eventually able to get it out, but it's a good piece of advice to know that your car's gonna be lower, so be prepared to possibly have another setup to get your car back on the ground safely. So now I'm gonna grab my torque wrench. All my wheels are gonna be set to 130 foot-pound, and we are ready to get in alignment. All right, I am on my way back from getting the alignment. On my way to the alignment, I was getting 221, which is a lot better than my average of 245 watt hours. So let's see what we get on the way back after alignment's done and the car's been lowered. All right, so I am just about home and it looks like we're getting about 220. It was at 219 for a while, but right around 220, where my average has been 244. And that is not bad because today is 55 degrees. So there's definitely improvement there. So keep that in mind. It's awesome. So it looks like my before measurements were okay, not terrible. So I got them measured up pretty well. And this is what it looks like afterwards, what they were able to do. From what the tech told me is up here on the camber and caster, that's the best that they could do because there's no adjustment up here in the front. Up in this arm, no adjustment at all. There's a slight bit that you can do, I guess, up top, but if you do want it perfectly done, of course my car's lowered now, but if you do want that perfect, this is what you want to get. And having that being adjustable, then you can fix that so it's absolutely 100% zeroed out. But that's kind of expensive. If I did go with Unplugged Performance again, which their stuff is absolutely great in quality, it would be $1,500 for the two up front. Maybe in the future I'll do that, but yeah, let's take a look at this girl. And that's what she looks like after. Isn't that a crazy difference in how the car looks? Surprisingly, guys, this made a lot more difference than I thought it would. I knew it was gonna lower it, but especially the rear, like I can do maybe a 2-finger straight through, giggity. And before I could fit like 2 fists on top of each other, like apparently 1.5 inch drop, but this is a lot more and it looks so good. I can't wait to get her all cleaned up and go to a car show or something like that. It's gonna look so good. I hope you guys enjoyed. And of course, if you want any of the stuff that I put in the videos, check down below. Unplugged Performance is great. Their stuff is fantastic. They actually test their stuff, which is why I bought their everythings. So take a look down below, take a look at their stuff. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.